Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. It has been 17, almost 18 months since I've been away, and it's a great joy to be back with you, Ranga. Thank you, and Namaste. We're beginning on page 271, the ascending series of substance. Beginning with the paragraph, the principle which underlies.
So, before we start reading that paragraph, let me summarize for you what he has said in the previous paragraph so that we get the sense of continuity. The ascending series of subtle substance continue into the higher grades. Next in line is the mind principle. First there is matter, then there is life, then there is mind, and it continues into the higher levels. Here, the laws of mentality govern the realm, and all must bow down to the laws of thought mind. Here, the substance is even finer, and it must be pliable and malleable enough to take the shape and the form of that which thought imposes on it. Here, the relation of sense and object substance is even subtler than the other two lower planes. Here, all is a servant of mind. This is difficult for the human mind to grasp. This series goes on upwards into supermind and the intermediate planes between matter and spirit. These planes were spoken of as Brahmaloka, Janaloka, Goloka, etc. by the Indian religions. They were worlds in which the liberated souls experience perfection, purity and bliss. Brahmaloka, Goloka and Janaloka. Roughly you can say the Brahmaloka corresponds to the Brahman consciousness of the self, the Atman. You can't make geographical limitations. There is an interweaving between all these planes. Goloka, the region of light, knowledge. Janaloka, region of bliss, Ananda. They seem to be different and you can experience them differently also, but they also percolate one into the other. Now we go on to the next para. The principle which underlies this continually ascending experience and vision, uplifted beyond the material formulation of things, is that all cosmic existence is a complex harmony and does not finish with the limited range of consciousness in which the ordinary human mind and life are content to be imprisoned. Being, consciousness, force, substance descend and ascend a many-runged ladder, on each step of which being has a vaster self-extension, consciousness, a wider sense of its own range and largeness and joy, force, a greater intensity and a more rapid and blissful capacity. Substance gives a more subtle, plastic, buoyant and flexible rendering of its primal reality. For the more subtle is also the more powerful, one might say, the more truly concrete. It is less bound than the gross. It has a greater permanence in its being, along with a greater potentiality, plasticity, and range in its becoming. Each plateau of the hill of being gives to our widening experience a higher plane of our consciousness and a richer world for our existence. The language is pretty clear, yes, and there is nothing much to discuss also here, unless there is a point to be discussed. So, we'll just summarize the thing what he is saying. It's very clear what he is saying, simple words. This graded, I'm just reading out the summary. This graded ascension of substance means that the universe is a complex harmony of many planes and is not limited only to matter, life, mind, to which that is normally limited. Okay? Then he is saying substance, consciousness, bliss are arranged as a many-runged ladder. The subtler substance is more plastic, more buoyant, more flexible than the less subtle. The subtler is more real, more concrete, and more permanent. This is the interesting part. The subtler it is, the more powerful it is, and the more concrete and more real. We would say the opposite from our point of view, but the subtler is more powerful. We can also think of it in another way. The subtler is powerful even at our level. Just see what happens when you get attached to somebody. It is such a strong bond. It is subtle. It's nothing physical. And yet, when you fall in love, for instance, the force that really attracts you. So the subtler, even at our level, is more powerful than physical things. So, and there it is even more true. Each level, as it rises, gives to the soul a more complete, a more perfect, wider and richer experience. This is what he said in the para.
When he says that all of these ranges of the mind and of the being, that even the supermind is coming into us now.
Yes. But there is another thing, that the supermind is already there, involved in matter right from the beginning. Because it's like a collapsible telescope, if you want, each one going into the other. But it is there only as potential. It has to develop itself. So for that, this is a problem that I used to also wonder about. Why is Sri Aurobindo trying to pull down the supermind? What is the point? Because already there. So this was the problem. But he explains, he says that evolution proceeds by two forces. One, the inherence of mind, life, matter. In fact, supermind, mind, Satchidananda, supermind, all are compressed into matter. Like a jack in the box.
Yes.
Okay. But, so there is a tendency, because it is divine in nature, there is a tendency to go back to where it came from. So the first force is the rising from the inconscient. But this is opposed by the inconscience itself, which wants to stay where it is. So it has to be countered by another principle, that is the plane of life tries to percolate into the lower so that its manifestation is easier. So there is a force from below and there is a force from above. That is what Sri Aurobindo has done. Now the force from above, he has done the work of bringing it down and forcing it into matter. Now the evolution can be faster. That is the reason why it has to be like that.
And in 56, when Mother broke the door and it flooded the earth, how did that differ from what Sri Aurobindo did by giving his body up?
Oh, that's a very complex question to which I have no answer. All I can think of is that he thought it probably appropriate for him to work from the subtler levels. This is one possibility. But I don't know the answer to that. In fact, it's a big mystery. I don't think anyone has a real answer to that. Even Mother has not given an explanation except to say it was a tremendous sacrifice. Yeah. And in one place, I think she mentions that after he has left his body, how much he has worked. Comme il a travaillé, she says. So even from there, he has been able to work. So,
and of course, on the Samadhi, she has written, achieved all, attempted all.
Yes.
Yes.
So, how is Sri Aurobindo's leaving the body relevant to the bringing down of the supermind is a question that has not been very clearly stated by any of them. Okay? So, we go to the next para?
Yes.
But how does this ascending series affect the possibilities of our material existence? It would not affect them at all if each plane of consciousness, each world of existence, each grade of substance, each degree of cosmic force were cut off entirely from that which precedes and that which follows it. But the opposite is the truth. The manifestation of the Spirit is a complex weft, and in the design and pattern of one principle, all the others enter as elements of the spiritual whole. Our material world is a result of all the others. For the other principles have all descended into matter to create the physical universe, and every particle of what we call matter contains all of them implicit in itself. This secret action, as we have seen, is involved in every moment of its existence and every movement of its activity. And as matter is the last word of the descent, so it is also the first word of the ascent. As the powers of all these planes, worlds, grades, degrees are involved in the material existence, so are they all capable of evolution out of it. It is for this reason that material being does not begin and end with gases and chemical compounds and physical forces and movements, with nebulae and suns and earths, but evolves life, evolves mind, must evolve eventually supermind and the higher degrees of the spiritual existence. Evolution comes by the unceasing pressure of the supra-material planes on the material, compelling it to deliver out of itself their principles and powers which might conceivably otherwise have slept imprisoned in the rigidity of the material formula. This would, even so, have been improbable, since their presence there implies a purpose of deliverance. But still, this necessity from below is actually very much aided by kindred superior pressure. This is exactly what we were discussing. And so there, I usually give to the students an image to explain this. I tell them to take 2 glasses of water, connect it with a tube, okay, and pour water in one glass. The other glass, the water will be at the same level. They can't be at different levels. Now, if you press one, what will happen? The other one will rise. So, something like that. Supermind, overmind, intuition, element mind, all are there here. But when the pressure from above presses on it, there is a tendency for it to come up. So this is what Sri Aurobindo is saying, is very much aided. Left to itself, Sri Aurobindo is saying it could have evolved, but it will take a huge amount of time. If he had not done this work of pulling the Superman down, rather he and mother together, maybe it would have taken another 1 million years.
Nature would have done it.
Yes, nature would have done it, but in another 1 million years. Okay, so one of the students asked me, so what, why didn't you let nature do it? Why does it do it so? What is the urgency? So, I asked him if he would like success after 100 years or in 1 year. So naturally, he understands the principle. Okay, so again shall I read out the summary?
Yes.
Amal, Anmol has something?
So you have done summaries of almost every paragraph?
Yes, I have tried to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, has the graded ascending and descending subtlety of substance any practical implications of importance for us in the world? This is what Sri Aurobindo is discussing in the para. Very often, if you give what Sri Aurobindo is discussing, you see it and then you make a question or put what he is discussing, then the para becomes very clear. So in this para, he is actually discussing whether this gradation, the higher gradations have any implications for us. Okay, that's what he is discussing. Has this graded ascending and descending subtlety of substance any practical implications of importance? They would have no practical importance if they were unconnected, separate, and stand alone worlds. Okay? Like a series of steps, but each step is hermetically sealed from the other, sealed from above and sealed from below. Then there will be no effect on the physical world. But they are percolating one into the other. That's what he's saying. Like rainbow colors. If you see the rainbow, you will see there is a little overlapping of all. So the total overlapping here. But the opposite is the truth. They are not even like stairs, but resemble more like a ramp. Okay? That's my image. But the reality is even more striking. Each is involved and contained in each other. The whole range of existence is a complex weft. Indian philosophy asserts that the 5 planes, ether, air, fire, water and earth, are arranged in such a way that each contains all the others in this way. And I'll tell you which way. Earth contains half of earth's substance and 1/8 of all the others. Then we have water. Water contains half of water and 1/8 of all the others. This is the Indian philosophy. Okay? So, similarly, all the others too. So, even in ether, half and 1/8 is a way of talking. Okay? Surely there can't be 1/8 of earth in ether, can't be. It's a way of saying that there is a percolation and an interaction of all with each other. Similarly, all the others too. This clearly implies that the highest spirit is involved in the lowest matter. Life is inherent in matter and therefore evolves out of it. It is this that makes evolution possible and even inevitable. How could life emerge out of matter if it were not already involved in it? Similarly, mind comes out of life by its inherent presence in it. That is why we can extrapolate the curve and state confidently that supermind will emerge out of mind in future. This indeed seems to be the spirit's intention in the terrestrial manifestation. This evolution is set into motion by 2 forces. The first is the pressure from below due to the involution. Matter wants to deliver life out of its womb because it is constantly wanting to manifest. But the second factor spurring the evolution is the pressure from above. This higher pressure speeds up the slow and tardy evolution. Okay? Then I have given the image of the vases which are communicated. Vase communicant, they say in French. The two vessels which are connected. Okay? So, evolution proceeds by these 2 combined forces. One from below and the other from above. This is what he said.
Once Madhav Pandit told me that there would be no evolution if there weren't first the involution.
If there was?
If there was not first an involution.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what exactly even Vivekananda says very clearly. He says, nothing can come out of nothing. If something is involved in it, it has to come out. But nothing can come out of nothing. That's right. Involution is absolutely essential. This is an idea which science has not yet grasped. They have not yet understood that consciousness is already there in matter, life is already there in matter. They are thinking that life has come from somewhere else and consciousness is a different principle. But that consciousness, substance, force and ananda are all the same, essentially. That idea is still not. Mentally, many people are going, the Sadguru is going and giving talks. So, a lot of interaction with scientists is taking place. But they are interested in experimentation and finding out.
Yes, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, he says this fellow who had a near-death experience and comes back and speaks of all the beauty he has seen.
Yes.
He said, I appreciate that, but prove it.
Yeah, that's the whole point. They want proof.
They want proof.
Yeah. But the answer to that would be, you can prove it to yourself. You can prove it to yourself. Who is asking you not to experience it? Okay. Before we knew about air flight, okay, air heavier than air machines, we did not know, but we discovered it. Who is asking you not to discover this? Yogis have discovered all these things. You can do the same. Do it. It's more difficult, that's all. Then, nor can this evolution end with the first meager formulation of life, mind, supermind, spirit, conceded to their higher powers by the reluctant power of matter. For as they evolve, as they awake, as they become more active and avid in their own potentialities, of their own potentialities, the pressure on them of the superior planes, a pressure involved in the existence and close connection and interdependence of the worlds, must also increase in insistence, power, and effectiveness. Not only must these principles manifest from below in a qualified and restricted emergence, but also from above, they must descend in their characteristic power and full possible efflorescence into the material being. The material creature must open to a wider and wider play of their activities in matter, and all that is needed is a fit receptacle, medium, instrument. That is provided for in the body, life and consciousness of man. So it is man who is capable of the spiritual progress, not the animal. That's right.
Thinks of the interdependence of the worlds, plural.
Yes. Because they are all connected. No? In this interdependence, the interdependence is more from above than from below. Because he says that if earth disappears, if manifestation disappears, Brahman does not disappear. But if Brahman disappears, there can be no world. So the interdependence is somewhat like that. It is more dependent on the higher than the lower. But in the physical world, there is, obviously, we have a body, material, we have a life, we have a mind. And a yogi has even more. He has higher planes also in himself. So there is an interdependence. Interdependence of the worlds. Okay? So, again, very small para. I am reading out to you what he is saying. It's a repetition, but some of those words bear repetition. The evolution from matter upwards is not enough if based only on the reluctance of matter to release the involved elements in its womb. Matter allows life, mind, supermind and spirit to emerge from its tenebrous matrix, but only imperfectly and partially. So if there is only the pressure from below, this is what will happen. Very slow process, and it will be imperfect and partial. Because matter's restrictive influence ensures that even if manifested from matter's indeterminability of forms, there is an inherent imperfection in them. Therefore, the perfection of the higher realms must descend into the lower to remove these imperfections. This is what he is saying. Both the things are necessary. Certainly, if that body, life and consciousness were limited to the possibilities of the gross body, which are all that our physical senses and physical mentality accept, there would be a very narrow term for this evolution, and the human being could not hope to accomplish anything essentially greater than his present achievement. But this body, as ancient occult science discovered, is not the whole even of our physical being. This gross density is not all our substance. The old Vedantic knowledge tells us of 5 degrees of our being: the material, the vital, the mental, the ideal, the spiritual or beatific. And to each of these grades of our soul, there corresponds a grade of our substance, a sheath, as it was called in the ancient figurative language. Kosha is a Sanskrit word for it. A later psychology found that these 5 sheaths of our substance were the material of 3 bodies: gross physical, subtle, and causal, in all of which the soul actually and simultaneously dwells. Although here and now we are superficially conscious only of the material vehicle. But it is possible to become conscious in our other bodies as well. And it is in fact the opening up of the veil between them, and consequently between our physical, psychical, and ideal personalities, which is a cause of those psychic and occult phenomena that are now beginning to be increasingly, though yet too little and too clumsily examined, even while they are far too much exploited. The old Hatha Yogins and Tantrics of India had long ago reduced this matter of the higher human life and body to a science. They had discovered 6 nervous centers of life in the dense body, corresponding to 6 centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle. And they had found out subtle physical exercises by which these centers, now closed, could be opened up. The higher psychical life proper to our subtle existence entered into by man, and even the physical and vital obstructions to the experience of the ideal and spiritual being could be destroyed. It is significant that one prominent result claimed by the Hatha Yogins for their practices and verified in many respects was a control of the physical life force, which liberated them from some of the ordinary habits or so-called laws thought by physical science to be inseparable from life in the body. He is referring to 2 things: the stoppage of breathing and the levitation. These are the 2 things that the Hatha Yogins can do.
Even the heart rate.
Huh?
Even the heart.
Yeah, okay. That's right. Respiration can be stopped, heart can be stopped and life can come back. So,
This is quite a paragraph.
yes, it's a long paragraph, and in India we know all these 6 centers and all these 3 chakras and all that. Still, it is worth mentioning what they are, so we'll just do that. Okay, so I go back to the beginning of the para. Certainly, if that body, life and consciousness were limited to the possibilities of the gross body, which are all that our physical senses and physical mentality accept. He is using the word physical mentality. So, our mind has 3 levels: physical mind, vital mind, and pure mind. Pure mind is the reason. Okay, so this is the thing that he is discussing. So he is saying that the physical mind understands only the physical world, nothing more than that. So there would be a very narrow term for this evolution, and the human being could not hope to accomplish anything essentially greater than his present achievement. Present achievement, mind limited to the physical world, maximum science. But science itself is now going beyond matter. This was written 100 years ago. More than 100 years now. 110. But this body, as ancient occult science discovered, is not the whole even of our physical being. This gross density is not all of our substance. The oldest Vedantic knowledge tells us of 5 degrees of our being: the material, the vital, the mental, the ideal, the spiritual or beatific, and to which all these grades of our soul there corresponds a grade of our substance, a sheath, as it was called. So, as it was called in the ancient figurative language. The Sanskrit terms for that are the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. Kosha means sheath. So, Annamaya Kosha, physical layer or covering or sheath. Pranamaya Kosha, the energy field. Manomaya Kosha, the mind field. Vijnanamaya Kosha, higher up, and finally Anandamaya Kosha. This division is conventional. You can divide into more, you can divide into less. In fact, he'll mention the less very soon. Okay? A later psychology found that these 5 sheaths of our substance were the material of 3 bodies: gross, physical, subtle, and causal. So these are the 3 levels, which are also, they have divided into 3 instead of dividing into 5. The first is the sthula, or you call it the gross world, the physical world. The second is the sukshma, the subtle world. And the last is the karana, or the causal world. Okay? And the Sanskrit terms for these are the sthula, the gross world is virat. The sukshma, the subtle world, is hiranyagarbha. The word hiranyagarbha is very interesting. Hiranya means gold, garbha means womb. So, the life is a golden womb from which the physical world comes out.
He speaks of it in Savitri, Hiranyagarbha.
Yeah.
And Virat also.
Yeah. So, because when the manifestation is taking place, the higher gives birth to the lower and involves itself in it. Give lower, 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 it goes on like that.
You speak a little more of the ideal.
Okay. It took me a long time to identify what he means by ideal. But I think I've got it. Because I see that every time he uses the word, the idea fits. Okay. So, I'll tell you what he means by that. At least that's what I think. So this is clear now. So this gradation of gross, subtle and causal is slightly different from the 5. In fact, Sri Aurobindo subscribes to none of these. He goes on to 7. He says, I'll follow the Vedic divisions. 7, Satchidananda, supermind, mind, life, body. He goes to 7. Mother speaks of 12. And in one of our chapters which we read 2-3 weeks ago, he says that you can divide into infinite number. Because every time you rise to another plane, characteristics change. So it depends on where you want to draw the line. Okay, so a later psychology found that these 5 sheaths of our substance were the material of 3 bodies: gross, physical, subtle and causal. Gross physical is 1, There is no comma, there is no and. Gross physical is 1, subtle and causal. And in all of which the soul actually and simultaneously dwells, although here and now we are superficially conscious only of our material vehicle. In other words, part of us is also there at the highest level. Part of us, of which we are not conscious. But we can rise to that because we are that essentially. That's interesting. But it is possible to become conscious in our other bodies as well. And it is in fact the opening up of a veil between them and consequently between our physical, psychical and ideal.
Another in the previous sentence, what does he mean by actually? Previous sentence. Why is he saying actually? He could have just said in all of which the soul simultaneously dwells.
Oh, okay. later psychology found that these 5 sheets of substance were the material of 3 bodies: gross physical, subtle, causal, in all of which the soul actually and simultaneously dwells. Oh. I think when he says actually, he doesn't mean potentially. I think so.
Actually,
Yeah.
Can we say that in reality?
Yes, that's right. Really. Yeah, you can say really, okay? Actually, yeah. And simultaneously dwells. Although here and now we are superficially conscious only of the material vehicle. Then, but it is possible to become conscious in our other bodies as well. And it is in fact the opening up of the veil between them and consequently between our physical, psychical and ideal. Okay, so what are these 3 planes? Okay, so easy. I would say that the physical is the body, mind, life. Okay, the body, mind, life is there. I like to call it level 1 because it's very different from the others. Then psychical, he is talking of the intraconscient. You have a body, mind, life, which is the crystallization of what you really are entirely. Okay, let's think of it in this way. If I take a small grain of salt and I put it into water, it dissolves and goes everywhere. So you have all the planes of consciousness that are there in the universe are in you, and your body, mind, life is only the crystal part. But you can dissolve that crystal and become universal everywhere. And that's your true individuality. So you have a subconscious, you have an inconscient, you have an intraconscient, you have a superconscient. You are all this because you are essentially the whole universe. We are not conscious of it, but that's what it is. And you have also mentioned the circumconscient. The circumconscient is your aura, very clearly. So, this is what you really are. So, you are there everywhere, but you are not conscious of it.
When the ego is dissolved, where are we placed?
Pardon?
Where are we placed when the ego is dissolved?
Yes. Yeah. We are sort of anchored to the crystallization of all these things. We are anchored to the body, mind, life. Anchored and even imprisoned. And we have to find and get out of it and universalize ourselves. So, I find this image of the salt very interesting because the salt grain doesn't exist anymore. The ego disappears, your body, mind, life, nowhere. You are all outside. But has your individuality disappeared? Has the saltiness disappeared? No. The saltiness is everywhere. That's your true individuality. It's a very interesting way of thinking. Yeah. So that's a true individual who is not limited to body, mind, life, but is there everywhere. Okay? And that saltiness differs from person to person. That's the interesting part. Each one has got his own character and characteristics. And that is still true when you are universal. We mustn't think that when 2 people become divine, they will always be the same. That's a wrong way of thinking. But very often we have a tendency to think like that. No? Oh, divine, they are both same, divine. They are omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. No. Sri Aurobindo says it is not like that. Very clear example, Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Divine consciousness, one is into poetry, the other into music and painting. Very clearly you can see that different. So, now, I will come back to physical world, level 1. Intraconscient is psychical. Okay? You go inside and because your psychic is in the intraconscient. Horizontally you go deep into yourself. And then the ideal, according to me, is the spiritual planes of consciousness. Because he makes a difference between supermind and ideal. The ideal planes are the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind and overmind, which I would like to call the second level. The supermind is the third level. It is different from the ideal planes of consciousness. When he is discussing Shankara's Mayavada and all that, he makes his difference. Ideal as well as supermind, different. So, in some places you can understand how he is placing ideal. Then, there is a fourth level, the Satchidananda, which is absolute and beyond all imagination and beyond all conception. So these are the four levels. So here he is talking of the physical, psychical and ideal. Okay? The spiritual planes of consciousness. And in the ideal planes of consciousness, in the spiritual planes of consciousness, the knowledge is not complete. You don't have power over your body, mind, life. That's the reason why the ascetic wants to escape. He doesn't have the power to fully change his body, mind, life. He can change. A spiritual man can change his mind to a certain extent. He can change his mind and make it a mind of light. He can also change his vital, but it requires more power. Nobody has done the changing of the body yet. And Sri Aurobindo says even the body can become supermental. That has not happened yet. Okay, so so that's what he's saying. So in fact, I'm reading that again. But it is possible to become conscious in our other bodies as well. And it is in fact the opening up of the veil between and consequently between our physical, psychical and ideal personalities, which is the cause of those psychic and occult phenomena that are now beginning to be increasingly, though yet too little and too clumsily examined, even while they are far too much exploited. He is talking here particularly of the clairvoyance and clairaudience, the seeing thoughts and hearing sounds which are not physical sounds. Clairvoyance and clairaudience.
Telekinesis also. Telekinesis also. Moving of objects.
Yes. That's right. These are all psychic phenomena. That's why using the word psychic in double quotes and occult also in double quotes. The word psychic here doesn't mean he's psychic. It means psychological, not physical. He means that. And occult means just as the scientist knows how to manipulate physical forces, the occultist knows how to manipulate life forces. So when you can manipulate life forces, you are an occultist. Maybe to a certain extent also mental forces, but mainly life forces, prana. You remember Madam Teo, she used to sit in a chair and the shoes which are 10 meters away, she used to get the shoes to come to her. They are, these phenomena are known, okay? There's a movement of things by themselves. It's called, they use the German word, poltergeist. Poltergeist phenomena, that suddenly physical objects start moving as though on their own. But these are things which can, Mother has herself spoken about Madam Teo doing this. She also spoke of that moving the table. There's a government official who was bothering them and Madam Teo made him sit opposite the table and she started with her force, not physically, pushing the table and pushed him into a corner. He never came back. He got so frightened. So, she was an occultist. Sri Aurobindo says, Mother knows a lot of occultism. I too know a little bit. So, that is occult psychic. So, here he is talking about all these things. In fact, nowadays they call it ESP, extrasensory perception.
Far too much exploited.
Yes, too much exploited. Because everybody knows, they go to crystal gazers and tell me the future, what is going to happen. Let's go to the old one. So now next one is, the old Hatha Yogins and Tantrics of India had long ago reduced this matter of the higher human level, human life and body to a science. They had discovered 6 nervous centers of life in the dense body, corresponding to 6 centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle. And they had found out subtle physical exercises by which these centers, now closed, could be opened up. The higher psychical life proper to our subtle existence entered into by man, and even the physical and vital obstructions to the experience of the ideal and spiritual being could be destroyed. It is significant that one prominent result claimed by the Hatha Yogins for their practices and verified in many respects was a control of the physical life force which liberated them from some of the ordinary habits or so-called laws thought by physical science to be inseparable from life in the body. As Anmol mentioned, the Hatha Yogin has the power to stop his heartbeats.
Or to levitate.
Yes, or levitate, or stop breathing. Yeah.
I have a question, actually two here. One is easy question, like what are these subtle physical exercises?
Pranayama is one. And yogasanas also. Yogasanas
That is
and
physical, that is not subtle physical.
subtle physical is pranayama definitely, and concentration.
Yoga Nidra.
Second is actually it's little.
Yoga Nidra.
Yeah, but that is physical. उसमें
Yoga Nidra. Subtle physical.
no. He says they have discovered 6 nervous centers of life in the dense body.
This is about it. Those who know biology should be able to speak of this. I think they correspond to the endocrine glands. Because you have the pituitary and the pineal gland, then you have the thyroid gland here. These are centers very clearly. So pituitary and pineal correspond here. Sahasradala and the...
No, but that won't be 6 because the highest one is outside the body.
Sahasradala is outside the body. Yes, 6, that's why 6. Correct. Then the heart center.
Thymus. Thymus.
Thymus.
Thymus gland.
Yeah.
Thymus.
Thymus gland.
Oh, acha, I didn't even know of that.
After adrenaline.
Acha. Then we go down to the, over the kidneys you have the adrenal glands. Okay, at the lower level of the stomach. And then finally you have the sex glands. At the lower level.
And at the level of the lung
I think they correspond to the endocrine glands.
or heart man.
Thymus.
Thymus. Okay, but my question was that here he's saying in the dense body, okay, nerve centers, corresponding to 6 centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle.
Just let's see, have a look at that. I also have mind faculty in the 6 centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle.
Yes.
And they found out subtle physical exercises by which these centers now closed could be opened up. So what's your question,
Yeah,
Anmol?
so my question is these centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle must be the chakras.
Yes.
Okay, but he says centers of life and mind faculty in the subtle. That means life and mind he is counting in the subtle body. Whereas in the synthesis of yoga, he says that the pranamaya kosha is part of the sthula sharira. It's there in the beginning. So I'm not able to understand why 2 different things he's saying in different words.
Mind and
I'll repeat. My question is clear?
I think I've understood, but repeat the question.
My question is that in the synthesis of yoga, Sri Aurobindo says that the Anna Kosha and the Prana Kosha, they are together there in the gross body, Sthula Sharira.
Okay.
Okay? Here he is saying that in the dense body, that is the Sthula Sharira, but then he says life and mind in the subtle. So it seems that he is placing here the Prana and the Mana in the Sukshma Sharira. And I'll just finish my this thing. So I read one Vedantic text, somebody called Tattva Bodha. So in that Tattva Bodha they taught the same thing, that the Annamaya is the Sthula and the life, mind and the Vijnana, they have their own system. That my point was they were including the life kosha in the subtle body. So I want to be clear where the life kosha is, whether in the subtle body or the gross body.
Just now we discussed that there is an intermingling.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah, but
In fact, as you go, this grows, and he has also told you that law, Anmol, if you remember, in the material world, Matter is the king. Life and mind have to obey the principles of matter. In the life world, matter and mind have to obey the laws of the life. Desire is the main thing. So there is an intermingling.
In Ayurveda, it is a prana yatan, prana house.
Huh?
In Ayurveda, it is prana yatan, prana house. It is in subtle body, but works in physical.
Yes. The prana is there in our body. If the prana leaves the body, you are dead. Because it's only matter. But the prana is there also in the mind. It is there even in the higher planes of consciousness. Because what is prana? Energy. And where is the energy coming from? Shakti. Sat Chit Shakti Ananda.
In the synthesis of yoga, it says that terminology of yoga recognizes besides the status of our physical and vital being, term the gross body,
Yeah.
doubly composed of the food sheath and the vital vehicle.
Yes.
So here he is saying that the gross body is composed of the food sheath and the vital vehicle.
Yes.
That means life.
Yes.
But here it is saying life and mind faculty in the subtle. So here the vital vehicle seems to be part of the subtle body.
Also. Yeah. Part of it is there also, no?
Maybe it is both.
In fact, when he makes a division, okay, in letters you will find this, okay? Matter, life and mind, body, life and mind are all intermingling, okay? There is mind in matter also. And so you have a physical mind. There is mind in the vital, and that's a vital mind. And there is mind, pure mind. 3 levels. Now the vital also is very interesting. He's saying there is a physical vital. There is a mental vital. And he also says in one place which is not very clear to me, but the difference is there between vital mind and mental vital. There is a difference. So it's a very, in fact he goes on saying it's a very complex machine. Another question which arises also, life enters into matter and you have living creatures. Okay, agreed. But can life manifest without matter?
On its own plane, but it has some substance of its own.
Not in the physical world. That's what. No. What about wind power? That is also energy, that is prana. What about lightning? That is prana. But is matter also there to a certain extent? That's right. So it is so involved, it's very difficult to separate them.
We hear of these vital beings, so they are not having a material body, but they are having their own action and whatever.
Yes, they have a subtle substance. They have a subtle substance. So this is what he is saying. And the last bit what he is talking about is the pranayama. They are the exercises. Pranayama, different types of breathing. They release the soul from the body, mind, life. It can. And also asanas also helps.
When he's practiced pranayama, he said he had great powers coming.
He had a tremendous flow of poetry.
Yes, but he didn't really recommend it.
No. He says there are better psychological methods. Use psychological methods. They are more powerful and more inclusive. He doesn't forbid you to... He doesn't say don't do pranayama. No, don't do. He doesn't say that. But he says there are more better methods, more powerful methods. In fact, Sri Aurobindo Yoga starts with the soul in mind, Purusha in mind. He starts from the mind level.